Magill's urban heat really does matter. Hi, I'm Shane Strudwick and I'll be taking you on a journey explaining how urban heat impacts the local community of Magill and why it's critical to keep our green spaces for the future. Climate change is impacting our world and we're exacerbating the impacts through poor urban design. I've flown a thermal drone over Murray House, University Precinct, Third Creek and the extensive tree canopy around Magill. The goal is to show you a vision if large amounts of natural environment are removed and how built materials not only absorb heat but also create urban heat islands. On an ambient 33-degree day, the thermal drone has highlighted built materials and bare lands that are more than 20 to 30 degrees hotter than the trees and the grass. Fortunately, around the Magill campus, the grass, trees and natural living environment are keeping the total area cool in comparison to suburbs which are made up of mostly built materials. You can see here anything with built materials is holding the heat much more. This includes the buildings, asphalt and the bricks. This view shows approximately 70% of the area covered in trees and grass, creating a much more healthy environment. When we look to the right, we see the hot car park and the bare hot paddock, which is creating some local urban heat. However, let's look at what the media and the government say about urban heat. Adelaide's urban heat islands are compounding the effect of heat wave conditions. Adelaide's urban heat islands create higher than average temperatures. These are just some of the things in an article reported by ABC News. Urban heat, one of the biggest killers. The social impacts of urban heat are significant, to the point that roofs, artificial turf and large areas of bare ground contribute, along with roads and car parks, to a higher than average urban heat. The Campbelltown City Council have made commitments to reducing urban heat and climate resilience in 2016 and 2018, which should impact development plans. Planning SA have a Planning for Climate Change document. This also undertakes to collaborate on planning solutions that can influence and respond to climate change, which means mitigating urban heat. Their goal is to promote development that is resilient to climate change, which is what we need in Magill. This Landscape Australia article talks about the SA government finding ways to combat urban heat. It states that climate resilience is a prime concern for South Australia, where an estimated 200 people over 65 die annually in Adelaide from heat-related deaths, and it's predicted to rise. However, Lisa Edwards, a sustainability consultant, believes many local governments are going backwards in total tree canopy, despite what they speak publicly. She says that most important step in reducing the urban heat island is with stricter regulations on removal of large vegetation. The Department for Environment and Water Heat Urban and Social Vulnerability report stated, identifying and mitigating urban heat island formation is a priority for livable cities into the future. However, when the Magill Youth Training Centre, less than a kilometre up the road from the Magill campus, closed in 2012, the land was rezoned in January 2014 as an intense urban housing development. Residents were very concerned about the lack of information from Renew SA's plan. While a third of the site would be open space, the urban development has created a poor example of urban planning and created an urban heat island. So we've seen the SA Government, Campbelltown City Council, Department of Environment and Water, Plan SA and the media talk about the urgent need for both climate resilience and urban heat planning. Let's look at the Woodforde development close by. As you can see immediately, there's an intense amount of urban heat, including my personal dislike of dark roofs. Nearly every surface has built materials, all creating an urban heat island. Sebastian Pelch is the Professor of Urban Management and Planning at the Western Sydney University. He states in an article, Urban Cooling, a collective must-do in heating cities, non-electrical options for cooling of buildings and their surrounds must be embraced now. People die from heat, and it's expected to rise across Australia and the globe. Management of the built environment for cooling will be key to limit the enormous human cost that results from urban overheating and the lack of actions to mitigate and adapt to increasing heat. Achieving urban cooling will be a collective effort with intergenerational benefits if we plan now. So Magill's urban heat does matter. In a hotter and warming climate, our decisions need to be smarter. We can create urban heat and a future problem, or a cooler, safer urban design for a cooler future. If only there was a sustainable example of this nearby, perhaps something like Lockyer Park. Thank you. I hope this won't be a development decision we live to regret for Magill's future.